I invite you to stand as you are able for the reading of our gospel. The Holy Gospel according to St. Mark, the 5th chapter. Glory to you, O Lord. When Jesus had crossed again in the boat to the other side, a great crowd gathered around him. He was by the sea. Then one of the leaders of the synagogue came, named Jairus. When he saw him, he fell at his feet, and he pleaded with him repeatedly, "My little daughter is at the point of death. Come and lay your hands on her so that she may be made well and live." So he went with him, and a large crowd followed him and pressed in on him. Now there was a woman who had been suffering from a flow of blood for 12 years. She had endured much under many physicians and had spent all that she had, and she was no better, rather grew worse. She had heard about Jesus and came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak, for she said, "If I but touch his cloak, I will be made well." Immediately her flow of blood stopped, and she felt in her body that she was healed of her disease. Immediately aware the power had gone forth from him, Jesus turned about in the crowd and said, "Who touched my cloak?" His disciples said to him, "You see the crowd pressing in on you. How can you say, 'Who touched me?'" He looked all around to see who had done it. But the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came in fear and trembling, fell down before him, and told him the whole truth. He said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your disease." While he was still speaking, some people came from the synagogue leader's house to say, "Your daughter is dead. Why trouble the teacher any further?" But overhearing what they said, Jesus said to the synagogue leader, "Do not be afraid, only believe." He allowed no one to follow him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. When they came to the synagogue leader's house, he saw a commotion, people weeping and wailing loudly. When he had entered, he said to them, "Why do you make a commotion and weep? The child is not dead, but sleeping." And they laughed at him. Then he put them all outside and took the child's father and mother and those who were with him and went in where the child was. Taking her by the hand, he said to her, "Talitha cum," which means, "Little girl, get up." And immediately the girl stood up and began to walk about. She was 12 years of age. At this, they were overcome with amazement. He strictly ordered them that no one should know this and told them to give her something to eat. The gospel of our Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. You may be seated. I'm going to just move this here. Don't worry, I am not going to do anything incredibly stupid at the moment. But I will recall something not too brilliant from the past, but grace to you and peace from God our Father and the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen. A little less than 30 years ago, I have to admit when I say times like that, it doesn't feel like so long ago the older I get, but about 30 years ago or so, set up a ladder very much like this one. I was leading a youth group meeting and was talking about trust. And I had students climb the ladder up to the top step here. It's a 6-foot ladder. Had them climb up to there and cross their arms over their chest, stand backwards on the ladder, and fall backwards into the waiting arms of other high school students. The issue was, do they trust one another? And are they very smart to realize if we mess this up, this could involve significant injury? I eventually discontinued this practice, by the way. But do they trust each other? Do they trust that the students who said they would actually catch them? All the students took a turn, every single one of them, even the ones that were afraid to do it, were bullied into it. No, I'm just kidding. Everybody did get involved and did it, overcame that fear. And when they were all done, one of the students said, "Well, now you do it." I thought, well, I really don't know that this is a better idea than what we've already had here, which isn't maybe such a good idea. But I did trust the youth, and I was able to arrange them so that I put the strongest people where the most of my 230 pounds, I was a little lighter at the time, 230 pounds was going to land where the heaviest amount was going to hit. But there was one problem. Every time one of the students climbed up the ladder and fell backwards, I held the ladder and I actually grabbed their ankles and held them up against here at their calf until I made sure everybody was ready, and then we had calls, faller ready, falling, all these kinds of things to make sure everybody knew what was going to happen when, and make sure this person didn't lose their balance or anything else. And then also, I had my foot at the base of the ladder, and my foot at the base of the ladder meant the ladder couldn't move. So when I climbed up the ladder, I forgot one thing, and that is somebody to block the ladder. So when I fell backwards, the ladder slid out the opposite direction. I think this is like physics. I'm pretty sure that's involved in this. There was an equal and opposite reaction of the ladder shooting the other direction, which meant I fell backwards, but I landed about a foot further back than what I was supposed to. Not in the strongest part of the group, but in the weakest part that's only catching like the legs, the back of your legs, which is fairly light. So I broke through some of these very surprised teens' arms as I fell, but my momentum was stopped about 6 inches before the concrete floor. Just in time. It was exciting, to say the least. It involved a little bit of fear after as you know something's going wrong, and that split all of a tenth of a second or so, but it's amazing how much adrenaline can pump in that much time. The students trusted each other. They trusted me that I would not lead them into something that could cause permanent injury, which nobody got hurt, by the way, so that was really good. And I trusted them. It wasn't really probably the smartest thing that I ever did with a group of teens, but it ended up okay. Trusting people can be, though, very difficult. It is hard for us to trust others. People let us down. People sometimes simply let us fall and don't try to catch us. That would have hurt. That would have left a red mark. There are times when people betray our trust. It's what happens with human beings. There are times when you trust your children to respect the bag of M&Ms that you purchased only to find that you bought yourself a bag of M&Ms in vain because it is now empty. Your trust shattered. If we have been burned by other people, if we have had our trust broken by parents or by family members or friends, it becomes difficult to trust. Trust becomes harder and harder. It's one of the reasons the concept of a trust fall like this actually is a great concept. Because you can't see what's coming, you have no idea, all you do is hope and trust in the people that are going to catch you. People may be difficult to trust, but there's always someone that we can trust. There's someone that we can always trust, and I guarantee will not let us fall through to the pavement. There's a man whose daughter was very ill, and he went to Jesus, and he asked him to come and heal his daughter, and Jesus agreed. But as he's leaving for this man's house and going on his way, some people come, and they say to the man, "It's too late. Your daughter is dead. Don't bother the teacher anymore. There's nothing that can be done. It's over." And Jesus overheard it, and he told the father, "Don't be afraid. Only believe." Jesus had told him already that he would go and heal the man's daughter. And Jesus will do what he says he's going to do. "Trust me," he says to the father, and let's go. What would have happened if the man had said, "No, she's dead. It's too late. There's nothing that you can do about it. There's nothing anybody can do"? What if he would have put his trust in the voices of his friends over the words of Jesus? If he would have said, "Sorry, Jesus, I appreciate it, but you can't be of any help to me now"? What if in light of what looked like a hopeless situation, the man simply didn't trust Jesus? hope is gone? What if he had doubts, which I'm sure that he did? All of us, would you have had doubts? They come and tell you your daughter's dead, and Jesus says to you, I got this. Just trust me, let's go. Would you have doubts? Would you listen to the doubts over Jesus' words? That's a challenge. Sometimes the doubts win. Colleen has a little sign, and it says, doubt has killed more dreams than failure ever will. Now, I changed it to doubt will kill more dreams than cholera ever will, but that's just my own personal getting a little kick out of it. But how often does doubt, even doubting Jesus, cause us to miss out, cause us to crash to the pavement? The man trusts in Jesus. He trusts him, and they arrive at his house. And when they get to the house, there's people mourning. Not a surprise. People are crying. People are upset. This little girl has died. And their mourning turns to laughter. Not from joy, but from ignorance. They don't realize the power Jesus has, the power over life. They don't realize, sometimes we don't realize, the power Jesus has to transform and change lives. They don't know who they're laughing at. They don't know what Jesus can do. And they laugh because what they do know is there's no person who can do anything. It's foolish to trust some man who says, oh, she's just sleeping, I can wake up a dead child. It can't happen. It won't happen. Just like the woman who had been bleeding for 12 years, who trusted the doctors that said, oh, we can help you. We have a cure for you. All we need is a little bit of money. Pay us and we will make things better. And they took every penny that she had, but they couldn't cure her. She learned that trusting others will lead to nothing. But then came Jesus. And in the midst of what had become an absolute hopeless situation for this woman, she trusted that Jesus might just be able to help her. That if she could just get close enough to touch his coat, that where everyone else had failed, everyone else in her life had let her down, Jesus could succeed. Even though people had come and told him it was hopeless, even though everyone laughed when they arrived at his house, even though when he walked in the door of his house, this father, Jairus, saw a dead daughter, he trusted Jesus. Even though everything told him not to, even in his own mind, I am sure that there were many doubts that were floating around. The world, everybody laughed and said there is nothing here, and yet he trusts Jesus. He trusted in Jesus above his own reason and logic and his own doubts. He trusted in Jesus above his friends and family that were outside mourning and wailing. He trusted Jesus over those who brought a message who said, don't even bother. He trusted Jesus over all these things. He trusted Jesus, that Jesus could, and that he would bring life from death. These events remind us of something very important. Not only can we trust Jesus, but we can trust him above and beyond anything else. We can trust him more than people, more than learned professionals, more than the wisdom of the world, more than anything money can buy, more than what we even see with our own eyes, more than our own reason and logic, more than our doubts that kill our dreams, that kill our trust. In Psalm 146 it reads, do not put your trust in princes, in mortals in whom there is no help. When their breath departs, they return to the earth. On that very day their plans perish. Happy are those whose help is the God of Jacob, whose hope is in the Lord their God, who made heaven and earth, the sea and all that is in them, and keeps faith forever. We can always trust Jesus. When I went to help someone one time, I withdrew all the money out of my checking account unintentionally. There was change, I should say this, there was change in there. But on the little ATM screen it said current balance 0. It was not enough to make a full dollar. I withdrew that from Colleen in my checking account. And I thought, uh-oh, I have made a big mistake. But there was a man who was in need. And I stood there for a moment and thought, I could put this money back and tell the man, I'm sorry, just can't help you. Or I trusted Jesus all the way to the ATM. I can trust him all the way the rest of the way. I thought, he's not going to let me down. It'll be fine. And as you've noticed, I did not starve to death since that time. We did not end up losing the place we rented. I stopped for a car one time, and I know I've shared this story, but it was loaded with enterprising young men who were all part of a special inner-city club. You can figure out where I'm going with that. And when I stopped, and it was like a clown car of people getting out of this car. This small car, there was 50 people got out. I mean, it was just like nonstop, these young men in their late teens, early 20s getting out of this vehicle. And I thought, well, this was a really bad idea. I should just go. But as well, I thought, no, you've already pulled over. You stopped to help them. This is what God's called you to do. Get out of the car and do it. Jesus called me to the help. And in the end, the interaction became a little frightening when he said, no, I don't need anything. We have some other friends are coming very soon, are right behind us. That made me a little less secure feeling at that moment. But I'm still here. Probably had the best interaction I have ever had with a Chicago gang member. And I would bet you any amount it was the best interaction this young man ever had with a dorky white suburbanite. We shook hands at the end, went our separate ways. Trusting in Jesus and where he was calling me, I can say from my own experience in my own life, has never been a poor decision. It has never been wrong to trust Jesus, even when it was difficult, even when it was scary. It was never wrong. As we ramp up for work camp next summer, many of the people that we will serve are people that have been the victims of scams. They have had people prey on them and take from them and promise them things and never come through. So many stories of how they have trusted people to fix something and they do nothing, or they do it wrong or shoddy because they just want the money. People that have promised to help them in their struggles and have done nothing. Many of them don't trust anyone. Matter of fact, many of them don't even trust us when we start out, that we actually will do what we say we will do. But the one they trust, and so many of the people that I talked to that we helped a couple of summers ago, they trust Jesus. And what they saw in this opportunity was that they had been praying for help, they had needed this help, and they prayed for it. They called on Jesus to help them. And then Jesus said to us, you, all of you, go and do. They trust in Jesus. We trust in Jesus who has called us. Last week we talked about praying, thy will be done, that we should do what the Lord has called us to do, to be what he has made us to be. And to do that means, of course, we must trust. We must trust him, that he will lead us always in good and right ways, that his word to us will always be true, that his will is something we can trust and is always best for us. There is no better anywhere. His calling is always sure, and his presence is always guaranteed. We can trust Jesus without a doubt. I know we need to raise a significant amount of funds for the work camp. I know we need all of us together to work to make work camp happen. And I know as well that the God who has begun a good work in us will bring it to completion. I know that in every way, in every place, in every time, we can trust Jesus. We can trust Jesus. He will never put us to shame. He will never leave us. And if he ever calls us to climb a 6-foot ladder and fall off backwards, he'll make sure there's someone to catch us. We can always trust Jesus.